Now, I should probably mention something regarding my last review, which was The Muppet Christmas Carol. Apparently, I loved that movie so much that I kept calling it A Muppet Christmas Carol, not The Muppet Christmas Carol. And I accidentally said Steve Whitmore instead of Steve Whitmere. So, yeah, apologies for all that. Let's dive into Die Hard. Die Hard came out in 1988 and was directed by John McTiernan. This is the same guy whose previous film was the original Predator, which I adore. I'll review that movie when we get closer to Shane Black's Predator movie, The Predator. But anyway, with Die Hard, it follows an NYPD cop, John McClane, who's played by Bruce Willis. He's traveled to Los Angeles to visit his family for the holidays because it's the Christmas time. So he decides to stop by the Nakatomi building in Century City to visit his ex-wife, whose company is holding a Christmas party. However, things get interrupted when the villainous Hans Gruber and his group of terrorists hold the entire building hostage. However, they have no idea that John McClane is in the building, so it's up to John McClane to try to get the attention of the LAPD and try to possibly stop Hans Gruber himself. Now, over the past few weeks, there's actually been a lot of debate on whether or not this is a Christmas movie. Everyone who loves this movie has said, yeah, it's not Christmas related, it's not technically about Christmas, but it takes place during Christmas, it has some Christmas themes to it. I mean, part of the plot is John McClane heading home for the holidays, so it's an appropriate movie to watch during Christmas. And then just a few weeks ago, people were like, no, it's not a Christmas movie. I'm like, wait, what? So, alright, before I get into that debacle and whether or not I feel like Die Hard is a Christmas movie, let's talk about Die Hard for what it is. One of the single best action movies ever made. I absolutely love Die Hard, and this was a movie that came out in the 80s, around the time we started seeing this massive surge in 80s action movies, mainly starring Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. You had movies like The Terminator, Commando, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Predator's another one. So you had all of these action movies where you had the tough guy hero just shooting a bunch of guns everywhere, and some of them were pretty stupid but enjoyable, like Commando or Rambo First Blood Part 2, but others were pretty damn good, like The Terminator and Predator. Die Hard takes a different approach to this. With Die Hard, sure, it's an action movie, but it's not really about running in guns blazing. Die Hard is more about stealth, wit, and ingenuity, especially when it comes to the character of John McClane. He's just an average cop who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Back in the old days of Spill, Brian Salisbury, who now co-hosts a podcast called Junk Food Cinema with C. Robert Cargill, described John McClane as the action hero movie equivalent to a Hitchcock main character. Because one of the tropes that you see in the heroes of Alfred Hitchcock movies is that they're just average guys who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And John McClane very much fits that description. He's just an NYPD cop who comes into Los Angeles to celebrate Christmas with his family, but things go horribly wrong, and throughout the whole movie, he has to use his wit and ingenuity to try to outwit the terrorists, and he even goes throughout the whole movie wondering, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I should not be here, but hey, I'm here, I'm a cop, I'm probably the only guy who can stop this group. Let's do it. And Bruce Willis is just so great in this role. Nowadays, I really feel like Bruce Willis has just kind of given up when he has to do these action movies. The only action movie that I've seen him really commit to within this decade was Rian Johnson's Looper. But usually when he has to do a lot of other action movies like The Expendables, Live Free or Die Hard, Red, he just seems to not give a shit at all. He's just there for the money. But in the first Die Hard, he works really well. And what also is really captivating about his role is that John McClane is vulnerable. He's just a regular guy who can get hurt. And a lot of what he has to do throughout the movie involves stealth. There's a point where he's hiding from the villains that spot him, and then Hans Gruber comes with a plan to shoot the windows in this office cubicle that John McClane's hiding in. So they shoot all the windows, which forces John McClane to step on all the glass with his bare feet, because throughout the entire movie, he's barefoot. And this is one of the few parts in the movie, in 80s action movies in general, that makes me squirm. It's when we see John McClane crawling on the floor to the bathrooms as his feet are leaving a trail of blood because he stepped on shattered glass. And normally with these 80s action movies, I don't get squirmish because sometimes the violence is just so goofy, so exaggerated, just so over the top, especially with Commando and Rambo First Blood Part 2, that it's just like, okay, this doesn't really affect me. But stepping on glass and having your feet bleed, that could really happen. Like, that just really freaks me out. It's like when you take Jackass the movie. These guys are doing all of these super ridiculous stunts that nobody in their right mind would do, but the one thing that gets the audience to cringe is when they use sheets of paper to slit the little skin between your fingers, and somehow that makes everyone cringe, more than pole vaulting into shit water. But anyway, back to Die Hard. That's one of the things that really makes John McClane so captivating, is that he can be vulnerable, and he can really get hurt. It's just very realistic and makes you root for the character even more. So obviously we have our great hero in John McClane, but we also have a really great villain in Hans Gruber, played by Alan Rickman. Rest in peace, man. Before he was Professor Snape in Harry Potter, he was Hans Gruber, and he is just a fantastic villain in this movie. What makes him so captivating, outside of the fact that it's Alan Rickman, anything the man does is captivating, he's just so slimy. You would think when his group captures this super complex building, they are after something really big, like some investment the company made. But no, they're just there to steal money. They could have just gone to any bank in Los Angeles to steal money from them, but no, they go to this facility to try to steal money, and for some reason you just hate the guy even more. Especially when you go throughout the movie and he slowly starts to piece together that, yeah, we have a New York City cop in our building, we gotta get rid of him. And oh look, his ex-wife is one of the people that's part of the company. Let's kidnap her. So yeah, Hans Gruber is a fantastic villain, and Alan Rickman just does a phenomenal job. The action scenes are fantastic as well. There's a lot of gunplay, obviously, but the action is actually more thrilling than you would think it is. Like I said before, John McClane is vulnerable throughout a lot of the movie, so he has to use his ingenuity and his stealth to try to avoid the bad guys. And it kind of makes it, in a way, an action thriller more than just a straight-up action movie, like something like I mentioned, Commando or Rambo First Blood Part 2. When you watch those movies, Stallone and Schwarzenegger are just going out guns blazing. And it's amusing, but you're not really fearing the characters' lives. With this, you're actually fearing for John McClane's life, and it just makes the action scenes even more outstanding. So I've just been praising this movie nonstop. Like I said, it's one of the greatest action movies ever made. I absolutely love it. But there is one thing that I have a huge problem with. And in normal situations, I would just stop the review and say, get off your ass and go see this right now. Or again, since all of you have seen it. But this is something that just distracted me, that I have to bump it down. And it happens at the very end. Now, it's going to sound incredibly nitpicky, but you gotta understand where I'm coming from. So at the very end of the movie, once the day is done, one of Hans Gruber's men is still alive and tries to point a gun to John McClane and his ex-wife. And all of a sudden, it starts playing the score for James Cameron's Aliens. This bothers me because I'm watching an action movie that I absolutely adore. And then I'm suddenly taken out of it with the music for one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I absolutely adore the score for Aliens, and it's such an iconic score that when it plays, I'm suddenly taken out of the moment and I'm thinking of Aliens. It was actually unused. It's part of the Aliens soundtrack on iTunes, but it was an unused piece of music that is supposed to be used when Ripley has defeated the alien queen and she's sucked out into the vacuum of space. Because the score for Aliens is just so iconic, I was instantly taken out of Die Hard for a second and reminded of Aliens. It's just like in The Artist. As amazing as that movie is, and as beautiful as the score is for that movie, there's a point near the end where it suddenly starts playing the Vertigo theme, composed by Bernard Herrmann, and it takes you out of the movie. You're just distracted because, no, I'm not paying attention to this silent movie right now. I'm thinking about Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. I know to some it might sound nitpicky because it's something that doesn't last very long and it plays at the very end of the movie. But if you love Aliens as much as I do, I hope that this distracted you as much as it did me. So, again, I absolutely love Die Hard, but because of the last bit of the movie with the alien score, it distracted me so much that I gotta say, worth seeing in your lifetime. Again, I absolutely love it, but that last bit of it is keeping me from giving it my highest rating. Still highly recommended. Now, in terms of whether or not this is a Christmas movie, It takes place during Christmas, obviously. The plot of the movie is John McClane heading home to visit his family for Christmas. His ex-wife's company is holding a Christmas party, and the score even utilizes some Christmas songs like Walking in Winter Wonderland. So I really do believe that it has enough there where you can make an argument that, yeah, Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and it's a badass Christmas movie. So yeah, that's where I stand. I think it's a Christmas movie, but I can kind of understand... No, actually, I can't. Screw that. And that's my review for Die Hard. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below and tell me what your thoughts are on this movie, if and when you've seen it. And as always, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one.